Well, hey kids, and welcome to another episode of Virtual Sunday School. I'm so excited that you guys could be here and join me for a very special lesson. I'm especially excited that all of you kids were able to say Psalms 23. You did such an amazing job, and Sarah Chichi's so proud of you guys. And guess what? You are now learning Psalms 1, which is also a very important chapter in the Psalms. And I want you guys to learn these memory verses. They're so important because when you get big like Sarah Chichi, you're going to remember these verses in your heart. And it's so good to learn them when you're growing up, like how you guys are now. So this week I have a very special and exciting lesson for you to learn, and it's about one of God's helpers. So I want you to learn the term, if you don't know it already, is called a prophet. Do you know what a prophet is? A prophet is someone that God speaks to directly, and he gives this prophet a very important message to say to his people. So the prophet that we're going to learn about this week is Elijah. Can you guys say Elijah? So Elijah was a prophet, and he had some very important messages from God to tell to God's people. And in this particular story, there was something really terrible going on in Elijah's town. It was called a famine. Do you know what a famine is? A famine means when there's not much rain and there's not much food being produced and the crops are not available. So what does that mean? People were starving and they were hungry and there's not much food or not much water available. So during this time, God told Elijah to go to a certain town called Zarephath, okay? And what he did was he traveled very far. So you can imagine that Elijah was getting pretty hungry and thirsty at this point, right? But when he went to a town called Zarephath, he saw a little boy and his mom. You see, this is Elijah. He was traveling for a very long time. And he saw this lady, and as you can see, she was picking up sticks. So probably she was getting ready to make lunch pretty soon. So Elijah was like, well, this is a perfect time. I've been traveling for so long, he tells this lady, and he's like, I just wanted some food and water. Would you be able to bring me some water and maybe some bread? So the lady takes a moment and she pauses and she says, well, sir, yeah, I can bring you some water, but you know, there's a famine going on, and well, we haven't been able to make very much bread. You see, my son and I, we were here gathering sticks actually to make our last meal, because after this, we're not going to have food anymore and we might die. So Elijah looked at the woman and he thought about it, and he said, well, here's what I'm going to tell you to do, because God probably spoke to Elijah, and he told the lady, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to make your last meal, supposedly her last meal, and what I also want you to do is to gather sticks and make a meal for me. So make some bread for me, and then you're going to make some for your child and for yourself, okay? So this lady thought about it for a little bit, and then she said, okay, well, maybe she didn't know that he was a man of God, but she decided she was going to make this meal anyway. So she goes to her kitchen and she makes this bread, and she gives Elijah a little bit of water and makes a loaf of bread for him. And so Elijah thought, okay, well, this lady is going to go back into her kitchen and she's going to make this loaf of bread for me, but then she should make a loaf for herself. Maybe she'll have enough. Well, we'll find out, because what happens is this lady makes a loaf of bread for Elijah, and then what she realizes is, wait a minute, she goes back into the kitchen and she said, there's a little bit more oil and a little bit more flour than when I left it, because I thought it was empty at first. Well, what she finds out is that there was just enough to make some for her and her son and for Elijah. So God performed a miracle. What he did was he said, well, I'm gonna make enough oil and enough flour for this woman and her son to survive. Isn't that amazing? So guess what happened then? Elijah was in the town for a little bit, and he stayed around, and he was talking to all the people and giving all these messages. Sorry about all the background noise, guys. So Elijah said, okay, what I'm gonna do is stay around for a little bit, because I think God has some really important messages to say to his people. So after some time, he was kind of in touch with this lady, and he was around, and the boy got a little bit bigger because they had enough food. Now he was living for so many days. And then one day, guess what happened? The lady's son got very, very sick. He was sick for a few days, and then she was so sad, and she didn't know what to do, and there wasn't much medicine around, so she was trying to maybe pray for her son, but he didn't live. He ended up dying. Oh no. So guess what this lady said? She's like, wait, I think I knew a man of God. And she went to Elijah and she said, please, sir, please, will you help my son? He died, and you were the one that when you came to my house, you performed a miracle, and your God provided all of this food and the oil and the flour that we needed to survive. You must be able to do something now. So guess what Elijah did? Elijah went to the woman's house, and he went upstairs and he saw the boy laying there, and Elijah took this little boy in his hands and took him to Elijah's room. And Elijah started praying for the little boy. Remember, he wasn't living, so he was dead. And Elijah prayed and prayed to God. Elijah laid over the boy, and he prayed 3 times, not just one time, not just 2 times. He prayed 3 times for this little boy. And guess what happened? He was raised from the dead. Wow. So after he prayed 3 times over the little boy, he finally came back to life. Can you guys believe that? That is called a miracle, because you know that the lady obeyed God at first, and she obeyed Elijah, and she was kind of hesitant at first because she didn't have enough food and she didn't have enough water even for her own son. But guess what? That was okay. She still obeyed God. So in this lesson, you can see that because she obeyed God, later on in life, when she needed help, she helped Elijah to make bread for him and make food for him. But later on, when she needed help and her son had died, and she was like, there must be some way he can come back to life, she remembered that she helped Elijah, so she thought, maybe Elijah can help me now. And that's exactly what happened. So this lesson is very important, that is telling us that even when God speaks to us sometimes, and maybe we do something that might sound difficult, like we need to give somebody else food even when we don't have that much, remember God is watching, and maybe that could be a blessing for us when we are able to bless somebody else that may not have much. We should listen. If God is speaking to us and says this is the right thing to do, then we should say that, okay, maybe God is speaking to me and I should obey God. Maybe later on God would be able to bless me. Okay, so this lesson, I hope, really stays with you guys. Sorry again about all the background noise. There's music playing in the background. So maybe you guys are coming to church this week, or maybe you're watching church from home. but I hope to see you very soon, and I hope everybody can come to church pretty soon and we can all see each other. But I hope you learned something important from this lesson, and I wanted to tell you guys I love you very much. I'm praying for you, and I hope you kids have a safe week.